When the family lawyer stood up at the head of the long mahogany table in the downtown Chicago law firm, his voice steady but heavy with significance. "Carter, your grandfather's will includes a personal declaration I must read first. You have chosen love with another man, and that choice will guide the distribution of the estate." The room erupted in whispers and shocked gasps from my mother, father, and sister, their faces a mix of confusion and horror as all eyes turned to me. I sat frozen in my chair, my heart pounding like a drum, because this wasn't something I had planned to reveal this way. My secret relationship with Julian had been carefully guarded for 2 years, hidden behind late nights at the office and weekend business trips. But now, with grandfather's passing last week, everything was crashing down. The lawyer continued, pulling out the document, his eyes meeting mine with a knowing look that made my stomach twist. The will states that if Carter embraces this love openly, the family business and the bulk of the fortune go to him. Otherwise, it all goes to charity, and the company to your cousin Derek. My mother let out a sob, clutching her pearls, while my father slammed his fist on the table. "This can't be true. Carter, tell them it's a mistake." But it wasn't. Grandfather had somehow known about Julian, perhaps from that one time I confided in him during his illness, when he asked me why I never brought home a girl. I had told him the truth then, expecting understanding from the man who raised me after my parents were too busy with the company. Now, his will was forcing me to face it all. I stood up, my legs shaky, and said, "It's true. Julian is the man I love, and I won't deny it anymore." The words hung in the air, changing everything in an instant. As the family erupted in arguments, I slipped out of the room, my phone already in hand to call Julian. He picked up on the second ring, his voice warm and unsuspecting. "Hey, babe, how did the will reading go? You inherit the empire." I swallowed hard, leaning against the hallway wall. "It's complicated, Julian. We need to talk. Can you meet me at our spot in the park?" Little did I know that this revelation would not only test our love, but also shatter the fragile bonds with my family and force me to question who I really was. The drive to Lincoln Park was a blur, my mind racing with memories of how Julian and I met 2 years ago at a photography exhibition downtown. He was the artist behind the lens, capturing raw emotions in black and white prints, and I was the architect who accidentally spilled coffee on one of his pieces. Instead of anger, he laughed it off and invited me for a drink. From that night, our connection was instant, filled with late-night conversations about dreams, fears, and the pressures of living authentically. But in my world of boardrooms and country clubs, coming out meant risking it all. My family, old money from generations of conservative values, expected me to marry a nice girl from a good family, produce heirs, and continue the Hayes legacy. Julian, with his free-spirited life as a photographer traveling the world, was the opposite. Yet he grounded me in ways no one else could. Arriving at the park, I saw him sitting on our usual bench under the oak tree, his dark hair tousled by the wind, smiling that smile that always melted my worries. But as I approached, his expression changed when he saw my face. "Carter, what happened? You look like you've seen a ghost." I sat down, taking his hand, feeling the warmth that had become my anchor. The lawyer announced it. "About us. Grandfather's will. It's all out now. He left the inheritance conditional on me choosing you openly." Julian's eyes widened, pulling his hand back slightly. "Wait, what? You mean the whole family knows? How? I thought we agreed to keep it quiet until you were ready." His voice held a note of hurt, the first crack in our perfect bubble. I explained the details, watching his face shift from shock to concern. "This is big, Carter. Your family isn't going to take this lightly. Are you sure you're ready for the fallout?" I nodded, though inside I was terrified. The next few hours were a whirlwind as I fielded calls from my sister, who was in tears, accusing me of betraying the family. My father left a voicemail demanding I come home immediately to sort this mess. But the biggest blow came when my mother texted, "How could you do this to us? After everything we've given you?" The guilt washed over me like a wave, but Julian's presence beside me reminded me why I had to fight. We walked along the lakefront, the vibrant city lights reflecting on the water, discussing what this meant for our future. He suggested we take it slow, but I knew the clock was ticking. The will gave me 30 days to decide. As night fell, we returned to my apartment, where the weight of the day finally hit. Lying in bed, Julian's arm around me, I whispered, I choose you. No matter what. But deep down, I wondered if love could really conquer the expectations that had defined my life for 32 years. The following morning brought the first real conflict. My best friend Alex, the only one who knew about Julian from the start, called early. Dude, the family is in an uproar. Your cousin Derek is already talking about contesting the will. You need to come to the house today. Alex had been my rock since college, a straight ally who never judged. Thanks, man. I'll be there. But Julian's coming with me this time. The decision to bring Julian to the family home was a bold one, but it felt right. As we drove up the long driveway to the estate in the suburbs, Julian squeezed my hand. Ready for this? I wasn't, but I had to be. The door opened to my mother's tear-streaked face, and the arguments began almost immediately. Carter, this is not who we raised you to be, my father boomed from the living room. Julian stood tall beside me, his calm demeanor a contrast to the chaos. Mr. Hayes, I love your son. This isn't a phase. The room fell silent for a moment. Then my sister chimed in with accusations of selfishness. It was the beginning of a long battle, one that would test every relationship I held dear. By the end of the day, I left with a heavy heart, but Julian's support made me feel stronger. Little did I know, this was just the start of the misunderstandings and betrayals that would push me to my limits. The drive back to the city was quiet at first, Julian staring out the window while I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. They'll come around, he said finally, but his voice lacked conviction. I wanted to believe him, yet the image of my mother's disappointed eyes kept flashing in my mind. Back at my apartment, we tried to act normal, ordering takeout and watching a documentary on urban architecture, but the tension lingered like fog over the lake. That night, as we lay side by side, Julian turned to me. Carter, I never wanted to be the reason you lose your family. If this is too much. I cut him off with a kiss on his forehead. You're not the reason. You've been the only real thing in my life. Still, doubt crept in during the small hours, making me question every choice that led us here. By morning, the media had caught wind. A local gossip site ran a vague headline about Hayes' heir's secret life, and my phone exploded with notifications. My sister Emily called, her voice sharp. How could you let this happen? Dad's furious, and the board is already whispering. I tried to explain that grandfathers will had forced the issue, but she hung up mid-sentence. Alex showed up unannounced with coffee, his usual easy grin replaced by concern. Look, man, I got your back, but the family's circling the wagons. Derek's pushing for a competency challenge on the will. Julian listened quietly from the kitchen, and for the first time I saw a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. Maybe I should lay low for a bit, he suggested later. Give you space to fix things. His words stung more than any family accusation. Was he pulling away already? I spent the afternoon pacing, replaying our first real fight from 6 months ago when I canceled a weekend trip because of a family obligation. Julian had said then, I get it, Carter, but I can't keep being your secret forever. Now those words echoed louder. I decided to confront my parents alone that evening at their Lincoln Park townhouse. The door opened to silence, the kind that felt heavier than shouts. Dad poured scotch without asking if I wanted any. Son, this isn't you. That photographer fellow has you confused. Mom sat across from me, her hands trembling. We had plans for you, Carter. A wife, children, the company. What will people say? I told them about the 2 years of stolen moments. The way Julian made me laugh at my own seriousness, how he encouraged my designs when the board shot them down. But every word seemed to widen the chasm. Dad finally stood. If you choose this path, don't expect us at the board meetings. The rejection hit like a physical blow, but I walked out with my head high, texting Julian immediately. I stood up for us. His reply came quick. Proud of you. Come home. Yet the misunderstanding started that same night. When I got back, Julian was packing a small bag. I heard from a friend that your family is blaming me for ruining your life. Maybe they're right. I grabbed his arm gently. No one's blaming you except them in their own heads. Stay. He did, but the air between us felt different, like a thread pulled too tight. The next week blurred into meetings with Mr. Thompson, who explained the will's fine print. 30 days to publicly affirm my choice or forfeit. Julian accompanied me to one session, and the lawyer's kind nod seemed to reassure him. Still, at home, small things built up. Julian canceling a gallery opening because he sensed my stress, me snapping about bills when really I was scared of losing the safety net I'd always known. Alex tried to mediate over beers one evening. You two are solid. Don't let old money tear that down. But as the days ticked by, I felt the weight of decisions pressing harder, each one carrying consequences that could reshape not just my future, but Julian's too. By the end of week 2, a family dinner invitation arrived, addressed only to me. They want to talk sense into you, Emily texted. Julian encouraged me to go. Hear them out. I'll be here when you get back. The dinner started civilly enough, with Mom serving her famous roast, but halfway through Dad slid a folder across the table. Sign this waiver, Carter. Walk away from the will's clause, and we'll keep the company and the family. I stared at the papers, my hand hovering. Julian's face flashed in my mind, his laugh, the way he saw beauty in ordinary city streets. I pushed the folder back. I can't. The table erupted again, but this time something shifted in me. Driving home, I realized the real conflict wasn't just with them. It was the part of me still clinging to the life I'd been promised. Julian met me at the door with open arms, yet when I told him about the offer, he grew quiet. You turned it down for me? The question hung, and for the first time I wondered if my sacrifice was becoming a burden on the very love I was fighting for. Weeks blurred as the 30-day clock ticked relentlessly. Julian threw himself into a new photo project, capturing Chicago's hidden corners at dawn, while I buried myself in work at the architecture firm, designing a community center that suddenly felt like my last anchor to normalcy. One evening he showed me the prints, vibrant shots of street musicians and quiet alleys. This is what I see when I'm with you, he said softly. His words warmed me, but the shadow of the will loomed. Alex dragged us out for a low-key basketball game at the park, trying to lighten the mood. You guys look like you're carrying the world, he joked, but his eyes told me he knew the strain was real. Julian played hard, laughing when I missed shots, and for a few hours the pressure eased. Then the first major misunderstanding hit. I received a late-night call from Emily saying Mom had collapsed from stress. Racing to the hospital, I found it was just exhaustion, but the guilt trip was immediate. All this because of your choices, Dad muttered in the waiting room. I stayed until dawn, holding Mom's hand as she whispered, "We just want what's best." When I finally got home, Julian was waiting with coffee. How is she? I snapped without meaning to. She's hurting because of us. The words slipped out, and Julian's face crumpled. Us? Or me? He grabbed his keys and left before I could apologize, leaving me alone with the echo of my own frustration. Hours passed. I drove around the city, replaying every argument, every hidden date. By the time I found him at his favorite rooftop spot overlooking the river, the sun was rising. I'm sorry, I said, pulling him close. None of this is your fault. He nodded, but the hurt lingered in his eyes. Back home, we talked for hours. Julian opened up about his own family in California, how his parents had accepted him years ago, but worried about me dragging him into drama. I love you, Carter, but I won't watch you destroy yourself for a legacy that doesn't want the real you. His honesty forced me to confront my fears. The next day, I met Alex alone. She's right, man. You've always played it safe. Julian's the best thing that's happened to you. His word stuck. That weekend we escaped to a cabin up north, just the two of us. No phones, no family. Under the stars, Julian said, whatever happens with the will, we build our own life. It felt like a turning point, yet I knew the real tests were coming. Monday brought the betrayal I never saw. A tabloid story hit. Hayes Ayres' gay affair exposed. Family in turmoil. Details were too personal. Our park bench, late-night calls. Only family could have leaked it. Emily denied it, but her eyes avoided mine when I confronted her at the estate. I was trying to protect you from yourself, she admitted finally, tears streaming. The pain cut deep. Julian saw the article at work and called, voice tight. Is this what our love looks like now? Public spectacle? I rushed to his studio, finding him staring at blank canvases. We'll get through it, I promised, but the trust felt fractured. Societal pressure mounted. Colleagues whispered at the firm, clients canceled meetings. I sacrificed a major project lead to avoid conflict. choosing instead to focus on smaller community designs that aligned with who I was becoming. Julian noticed the change. You're different, stronger. Yet the rifts kept widening. My best friend's loyalty shone through when he publicly defended me on social media, but even Alex faced backlash from old college buddies. As the deadline neared, I scheduled a final meeting with Mr. Thompson. Julian came along, holding my hand in the waiting room. The lawyer reviewed the options again, his voice calm. Your grandfather wanted you free, Carter. Not trapped by expectations. Leaving the office, I felt a strange peace. But that night another argument flared when Julian suggested we take a break until the dust settled. I can't lose you, I said, voice breaking. He stayed, but the psychological toll showed in sleepless nights and quiet dinners. Each decision, defending our love, facing family, sacrificing career stability, carried consequences that reshaped me. I was no longer the polished heir. I was a man learning to stand in his truth. The growth hurt, but with Julian beside me, it felt possible. Still, the biggest storm was yet to come, and I sensed it would either break us or forge something unbreakable. The tabloid fallout spread like wildfire through Chicago's elite circles. Invitations to galas vanished overnight, and my firm's partners called an emergency meeting. We support you personally, Carter, the senior partner said, but clients are nervous. I resigned the next day, a choice that left me both terrified and liberated. Julian helped pack my office, his quiet presence a steady anchor. This is brave, he whispered. But freedom came at a cost, savings dwindled, and the will's clock kept ticking. Emily reached out with a half apology, blaming pressure from Dad, but the betrayal still stung. I met her at a neutral cafe, where she admitted leaking the story in a moment of panic. I thought it would force you to choose family. Her words revealed how deeply fear ran in our bloodline. I forgave her, but the trust needed rebuilding. Julian's photography exhibit opened that week, a small gallery in Wicker Park. I stood in the back, watching strangers admire his work, proud yet aware of the stares when people recognized me from the articles. After the show, we walked home through quiet streets. Your photos captured everything I've been feeling, I told him. He smiled, but tension returned when my phone buzzed, Dad demanding a final family summit. Don't go alone, Julian urged. I insisted, needing to face them as the man I'd become. The meeting at the estate turned heated fast. Dad offered a compromise. Keep the relationship private, inherit everything. No more public embarrassment. I refused, standing taller. I won't hide anymore. Mom cried softly, but something in her eyes softened. Leaving, I felt the sacrifice settle heavy, potentially losing millions, the family name, security. Yet driving away, I realized the real wealth was the freedom to love openly. Back home, Julian sensed the shift. You gave up everything. His voice cracked with guilt. A misunderstanding exploded when he suggested moving to California temporarily. To escape the spotlight, he said. I heard it as doubt in us. You want to run? The argument lasted hours, words flying about sacrifice and resentment. He slept on the couch that night. Morning brought clarity. I found him making breakfast, eyes red. I was scared for you, not us. We held each other, the reconciliation raw but real. Alex stopped by later, sharing how his own family had rallied in support. See, not everyone's against you. His loyalty reminded me true friends endure. Societal whispers followed everywhere, grocery runs, gym sessions. One afternoon, a stranger approached Julian at a coffee shop, offering sympathy for dating the disgraced heir. He laughed it off, but I saw the toll. I started volunteering at a local LGBT youth center, channeling my architectural skills into redesign plans. The work grounded me, showing me purpose beyond money. Julian joined for a shoot, capturing kids' hopeful faces. This is who we are now, he said. Yet the deadline loomed, and Derek filed paperwork to contest. Mr. Thompson warned of prolonged court battles. The psychological weight pressed daily, nights of doubt, days of resolve. Each choice to prioritize love over legacy carved away old insecurities, revealing a stronger Carter. But the strain tested Julian too. One evening he admitted, "Sometimes I wonder if I'm worth all this." His vulnerability broke me. I vowed then to prove it every day. The betrayals and sacrifices weren't ending us. They were forging us into something real. As the final week approached, I felt ready for whatever came next, even if it meant walking away from everything I once knew. The turning point arrived on day 28. Mr. Thompson called at dawn. Your grandfather left a private letter, Carter. It must be read in person today. Julian and I drove to the office together, hands clasped. The envelope was old, grandfather's handwriting shaky but clear. Inside, the words changed everything. I knew about Julian before you told me, son. Watched you light up around him. The clause isn't punishment, it's permission. Choose love, and the fortune is yours without strings. But only if you do it for you, not the money. Tears stung my eyes. He had orchestrated the shock to free me from the cage of expectations. Julian read over my shoulder, silent. He saw us, he whispered. The revelation lifted a weight I hadn't known I carried. Yet the universe tested us immediately. Julian's mother called from California. Emergency surgery, no insurance to cover it fully. Without hesitation, I wired the funds from my personal account, the last of my savings. You didn't have to, Julian said, voice thick. But watching him pack for the flight, I knew sacrifice worked both ways. I stayed behind to handle the will, promising to join soon. Alone in the apartment, the silence amplified every doubt. Derek's lawyers sent threats, media camped outside. Alex crashed on my couch for support. You're doing the right thing, he said over late-night talks. His friendship never wavered, a reminder that not all bonds break. The family summit happened the next day, summoned by Mom. I walked in expecting war, but found quiet. She had read the letter too. Your grandfather was right, she admitted. Dad sat stiffly, but for the first time didn't interrupt. Emily hugged me. I was wrong to leak it. The conversation stretched hours, raw truths spilling, my childhood loneliness, their fear of losing the only son, my need to be seen. No full acceptance yet, but cracks of understanding appeared. I left lighter, texting Julian. Progress. His reply. Come soon. Mom's asking about you. Flying to California felt like crossing a threshold. At the hospital, Julian's mother smiled weakly from her bed. So this is the famous Carter. Her warmth melted the last barriers. We spent days at her bedside, then walking beaches where Julian grew up. One sunset he stopped me. The will doesn't matter anymore. I choose us to. The moment crystallized everything. Love wasn't about money or legacy. It was this. Back in Chicago for the final deadline, I signed the affirmation papers in Mr. Thompson's office. It's done, he said. Fortune secured. But more importantly, I had secured myself. The psychological shift was profound. No more hiding, no more proving. Julian returned, and we celebrated quietly with Alex. Simple dinner, laughter that felt earned. Yet I knew growth meant facing ongoing realities. Family dinners started tentatively, awkward but present. Societal stares lessened as headlines faded. Each decision's consequence had molded me into someone unafraid. The major turning point wasn't the money. It was realizing my identity wasn't negotiable. With Julian's hand in mine, the future stretched bright, even if imperfect. The final board meeting arrived like a closing chapter. I stood at the head of the same mahogany table where it all began, now as confirmed heir. Faces that once glared now watched with cautious respect. The company will evolve, I announced, outlining plans for inclusive community projects. Dad nodded slowly, pride flickering beneath the surface. Mom reached for my hand afterward. We're trying, Carter. Emily smiled genuinely. The reconciliation wasn't instant or complete, but it was real, small steps toward acceptance that meant more than any inheritance. Derek dropped his contest, muttering something about family first. I didn't gloat. I simply moved forward. Julian waited outside, leaning against the car with that familiar grin. We drove to Lincoln Park, our bench waiting under the oak. Sitting there, the city humming around us, I turned to him. We made it. He leaned in, forehead against mine. We did more than that. We built something honest. The romantic peace settled deep, the kind earned through every misunderstanding, every sacrifice. Alex joined us later with champagne, toasting to truth and the best damn couple I know. His loyalty had been the steady thread through it all. As evening lights twinkled, I reflected on the journey, Self-doubt transformed into strength. Love tested and proven unbreakable. Family expectations no longer define me. I define my own path. Months later, life steadied into something beautiful. I split time between the company and youth center designs. Julian's photos graced galleries nationwide, our story quietly inspiring others. Family holidays included him now, awkward jokes giving way to real conversations. One quiet night on our balcony, Julian said, "Thank you for choosing us every day." I pulled him close, the Chicago skyline our witness. The growth wasn't loud or dramatic. It was in the daily choices, the courage to face consequences, and the peace of living authentically. Love had won, not by magic, but by persistence and truth. True or false, family acceptance is always required for a gay man to find lasting happiness in love.